It was a crisp autumn morning in downtown Chicago, the kind of day when the city's hustle felt more palpable, and the usual hum of activity in the bank lobby was punctuated by the steady shuffle of well dressed professionals. At first glance, nothing seemed unusual. The sleek, glass building that housed Riverstone Bank stood as a symbol of corporate success, its mirrored exterior reflecting the busy streets below. However, inside the plush lobby, an unsettling atmosphere was beginning to take root. Deontay Williams, a highly respected CEO of a growing tech company, had just stepped into the bank's lobby, his presence instantly commanding attention. He was a tall, impeccably dressed man, his confident stride betraying years of success in a competitive industry. His black suit, polished shoes, and air of quiet authority made him a figure to be reckoned with. He had an important meeting scheduled with the bank's senior management, one that could potentially elevate his company to new heights with a multimillion-dollar loan. Deontay was known for being punctual and meticulous, and today was no different. He had arrived at 9 a.m. sharp as agreed upon. But as the minutes ticked by, the reception desk, which had initially greeted him with enthusiasm, grew quieter and more uncomfortable. At 9:30, Deontay was still seated in the plush waiting area, his hands folded neatly in his lap. His mind raced through the business plan he would present, the projections for the next quarter, and the innovative tech solutions his company was developing. He had prepared for this moment for months. Yet here he was, waiting. He checked his watch for what felt like the 100th time. Around him, other clients came and went, some stopping briefly to glance at the man who seemed oddly out of place in this world of beige suits and crisp ties. A few whispered, speculating on who he was. To them, Deontay seemed like just another wealthy businessman. But to those in the know, he was an industry leader, a disruptor who had shaken up Silicon Valley with his tech startup. Meanwhile, the bank manager, Charles Henderson, was in his office, unaware of the growing tension outside. Charles had been in the banking world for nearly 30 years. He was known for his punctuality, his sharp suits, and his ironclad approach to business. However, despite his outward professionalism, Charles harbored some outdated notions. His view of the business world had been shaped by years of being in high places with people who looked like him, white, older, and conservative. Deontay, on the other hand, was an anomaly in his eyes, a young black man with a sharp mind and a bright future. But today, it wasn't just about Deontay's race. It was about the fact that Charles had underestimated him. He had a lot on his plate, and didn't feel it necessary to rush to meet a CEO from a relatively unknown tech startup, especially when there were so many pressing matters to attend to. As time stretched on, Deontay's patience began to wear thin. He had been in situations like this before, where his worth had been questioned either subtly or outright. The same doubts had come up when he first started his company, and he had proved everyone wrong. But this was different. This was the kind of systemic bias that was often hidden in plain sight, masked by the shiny walls of corporate offices. It was now 10 a.m. Deontay stood up and approached the receptionist, his expression calm but determined. "Is there any update on when Mr. Henderson will be available?" he asked politely. The receptionist, a young woman with nervous eyes, nodded quickly. "I'll check with his assistant right away, Mr. Williams. I apologize for the delay." Deontay returned to his seat, though his frustration was starting to show. His phone buzzed with messages from his team, but he ignored them. This meeting was too important to let distractions take over. He could feel the eyes of other clients on him, but he refused to let their curiosity affect him. At 10:30, after an agonizing hour and a half, Charles Henderson finally emerged from his office. His appearance was as polished as ever, gray suit, tie in place, a look of authority that demanded respect. But as he stepped into the lobby, his gaze met Deontay's, and for a moment, there was a flicker of realization. He had kept the CEO of one of the most innovative tech companies in the country waiting for 2 hours. "Mr. Williams," Charles said, extending his hand, though it felt forced, "I'm so sorry for the delay. I've had a number of issues to sort out this morning." Deontay stood up slowly, taking Charles's hand with a firm grip. "It's all right, Mr. Henderson," he replied, his voice steady, but with an undercurrent of something deeper. "But I'll be honest with you, I don't take kindly to being kept waiting, especially when my time is just as valuable as anyone else's." Charles blinked, slightly taken aback. He had expected Deontay to be understanding, perhaps even deferential, as so many others had been when they were kept waiting in the past. But Deontay wasn't like the others. He had faced these microaggressions before and had learned how to turn them into moments of power. Charles gestured for Deontay to follow him into his office, but as they walked, the tension was palpable. Deontay was well aware that this meeting could determine the future of his company, but he was also aware that his treatment today was a reminder of how the system often worked against people like him. As the meeting progressed, Charles tried to recover from the awkward start, discussing numbers, projections, and potential opportunities. But it was clear that something had shifted. Deontay wasn't just another businessman seeking a loan. He was a man who had earned his place at the table and wasn't about to let anyone, especially someone like Charles, undermine that. By the end of the meeting, Charles was visibly impressed by Deontay's confidence and the strength of his business plan. But it was too late. Deontay had already made up his mind. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Henderson," Deontay said, standing up to leave. "But I don't think we'll be moving forward with this loan. There are other banks that value our time and our business more than you do." Charles's face turned pale as he tried to salvage the situation. "Mr. Williams, I assure you," but Deontay cut him off with a polite but firm smile. "It's already decided." As Deontay walked out of the bank, the stunned silence behind him spoke volumes. He had made his point not just to Charles, but to everyone in the room. In that moment, he knew that he had just rewritten the narrative. No longer would he be the one kept waiting. He would decide his own fate, and no one would take that away from him. The world was changing, and so was the way people like Deontay Williams were seen.